Here's something ought to bother you, friend. There is a powder the government approved 60 years ago that organic farmers use on your food that you could swallow by the spoonful and come to no harm. It kills roaches, fleas, ants, bedbugs, ticks, over 100 pests, and a bug can never grow resistant to it. Costs about $10, yet the pest folks pull 16 billion a year and somehow never mention its name. Now, why would a thing that cheap, that safe, that good stay buried so long? You already know. Stay right here with me now. Now let me tell you where this powder comes from, because the answer is older than anything you've ever laid your eyes on. Older than this country, older than the cotton my people picked, older than the first man who ever walked these lands. The story starts about 30 million years ago, at the bottom of ancient lakes and oceans, in water that dried up long before your great-grandmother's great-grandmother drew her first breath. Down in that water lived a little creature, friend. So small you'd need a microscope to ever see it. A single-celled thing they call a diatom, an algae no bigger than a speck of dust. But the Lord gave that tiny creature something remarkable. He gave it a shell made of silica. Glass, child, natural glass. Each one of those little creatures wore a coat of glass. Now picture it. For hundreds of millions of years, those diatoms lived their short lives and died. And when they died, they sank, down to the bottom, and their little glass shells settled there, one on top of another, year after year, age after age, until they piled up in layers thousands of feet deep. Think on that. Whole nations of glass laid down quiet at the bottom of the world while everything up top was being born and dying. Then time did what time does. It pressed those layers down, the weight of the water, the weight of the years, until that soft mountain of shells turned to stone, a soft, chalky, sedimentary rock. And that is what we go and dig up out of the ground today. We mine that rock. We grind it down fine, finer than flour, into a pale white powder. And that powder has a name most folks have never spoken: diatomaceous earth. Say it slow: diatomaceous earth. 30 million years of dying, ground into a bag you can hold in one hand. Now here's the thing that'll set you back on your heels. To you and me, that powder is soft. Run your fingers through it, and it feels like chalk, like flour, harmless as the dust on a windowsill. You could rub it on your hand all day and never feel a thing. But you and me, we're big, friend. We're giants. You got to shrink yourself down to the size of a bug to understand what this powder really is. Down there at the size of an ant, that soft little powder ain't soft no more. Every speck of it is a jagged, razor-sharp piece of broken glass shell. To that ant, it ain't powder. It's a whole field of broken bottles, thousands of little blades, every one of them sharp enough to cut. Now the Lord built a bug with a coat of wax on the outside of him, a waxy armor that holds his water in. That's how he keeps from drying out. And when that bug walks across this powder, those glass edges scratch right through his wax coat. They cut it. They scrape it. They soak up the oil and the fat that's supposed to seal him. And here's what kills him, child. He don't get poisoned. He don't get sick. He dries out. He loses his water through them, scratches faster than his little body can ever hold it, and he withers away. He dehydrates. Plain and simple. Now you listen close, because this is the part the chemical folks pray you never learn. A poison works on the inside of a bug, and over the years, a bug can learn to live around a poison. His children come back stronger. But you cannot teach a bug to live around a razor blade. You can't argue with glass. It cuts the same today as it cut a million years ago. So how fast does it work? And on what? Let me tell you exactly what walks into this powder and never walks back out. Now, I told you it ain't a quick killer, and I'll be honest with you about that, friend, the way the old folks were always honest. This powder takes its time, but the time it takes depends on the bug. Your soft little pests, your aphids, your caterpillars, the tender ones, they dry up fast, inside 12 to 24 hours. Your fleas and your bedbugs, them you'll lose in about a day to 3 days. And your big armored fellows, your roaches, your beetles with their thick rigid shells, they might take 3 days, even 7, before they finally give up the ghost. Slow, yes, but sure. And here's the blessing of it. Once you lay it down, it don't quit. A surface dusted with this powder stays deadly to anything that crosses it so long as it stays dry. Weeks, months, inside a dry wall where no rain ever reaches, it'll keep killing for years. Now let me read you the roll call, child, the whole list of what this one powder handles. Ants, roaches, fleas, bedbugs, silverfish, earwigs, beetles, weevils in your stored grain, spider mites in the garden, ticks out in the yard, slugs on your vegetables, fungus gnats in your houseplants, the pantry pests in your cupboard, every last one of them by the very same means. And this ain't some backwoods notion I'm selling you. The government registered this powder back in 1960. Organic farmers, the ones who won't put a drop of chemical near your food, they dust it on the crops you eat. Back in 2015, the scientists studied it on the Argentine ant and watched their numbers fall. The journals wrote it up against bed bugs, too. And here is the part that ought to humble a man. There are bed bug strains today so tough, so hardened, that the strongest chemicals just bounce right off of them, but this old powder still kills them dead. The bug never learned to live around the glass. Now here comes the question nobody in that business wants you to ever ask out loud. Sit with it a moment. If this powder is real, and it is, if the government approved it 60 years back, and they did, if the organic farmers trust it on the very food you feed your children, and they do, if it kills the bugs the chemicals can't even touch anymore, and it does, then tell me this, friend, why does a man come to your door and sell you a pest control contract that runs you $400, $600, $1,200 a year? Why does the average household in this country hand over $300, $400, $500 every single year to keep the bugs at bay? Why does a $16 billion industry not simply hand you a $10 bag of this powder and tip its hat and go on home? You already know the answer, child. In your heart, you already know it. Let me say it plain. A $10 bag that ends a man's problem for good is no kind of business, you understand me? It can't be sold twice. It don't come back next spring. A problem that stays solved don't pay nobody's salary. So the business was never built on solving your problem. The business was built on managing it, on keeping it just alive enough that you keep on calling. That's the whole trick of it. That's the treadmill, and I want you to see it clear. They come, they spray, they leave. The bugs die back. And then, sure as the seasons turn, the bugs come on home again. Or some new ones move in, and you pick up that telephone and they come, and they spray, and they leave, and you pay, again, and again, and again, year after year after year. The whole machine runs on one quiet little secret. The cure can never be allowed to last, because a cure that lasts is the end of the bill. And that, friend, is the thing that grieves me. Because my people, they didn't have a choice about being self-reliant. They had nothing. No money for a man with a sprayer, no contract, no telephone to call. What they had was their own two hands and the wisdom passed down to them. And somewhere along the way, we traded that wisdom for a monthly bill. We got comfortable. We let somebody else carry what we used to carry ourselves. They didn't just sell us poison, child. They sold us dependence. They taught a free people to pay rent on a problem their grandmother solved for a few dollars and a Saturday morning. That's the part that ought to make you angry. But you can pick that wisdom back up. It's still right there waiting for you. So let me show you how, the way it was shown to me. First thing, and you hear me on this because it matters, you buy food grade only. There's another kind they sell for swimming pool filters, and that kind's been cooked and treated, and it'll do you harm. You don't want that one. You want the food grade. You'll find it at the feed store, the garden center, the hardware store down the road. A small bag runs you under $10. A big sack to do your whole place, inside and out, maybe 20, 25. Now the way you put it down, think thin, friend, thin, a light little dusting, so fine you can hardly see it. Folks get this wrong every time. They pour it out in big piles, and a bug is no fool. He'll just walk around a pile. You want a whisper of it, a fine veil, across every place a bug travels. Along your baseboards, up under the stove and the icebox, inside the cabinet hinges, around the door frames, out along the fence line, around the base of your garden beds, around the bottom of the chicken coop and the dog's kennel. Anywhere they walk, you lay that thin white line. Now for the bed bugs, that misery that won't quit. You dust it thin under the mattress, along the joints of the bed frame, down inside the base, and along the baseboard of the room. Then you leave it be. It's slower than a chemical bomb, but it works on the very strains the chemicals gave up on. And that's why even the professionals reach for it now. And here's one that surprises folks. Your stored grain, your cornmeal, your beans. You can mix this powder right in, about 1 cup to 50 pounds. It coats every kernel and kills any weevil that comes to feed. And it don't poison your food one bit. Farmers done it for generations. Now I'll give you the honest truth, the way the old folks always did. 2 things this powder won't do. It hates water. Wet it down and it's useless. The edges clump and dull and lose their bite. So outdoors, after a rain or a heavy dew, you lay it again. And it don't kill the eggs, only the living bug that walks across it. So you keep treating, through one hatching and the next till they're all gone. One last word on safety. Don't breathe great clouds of it. Wear a little dust mask for a big indoor job, same as you would with any fine dust, but on your skin, around your young ones, around your animals, it's harmless. The poison folks at Oregon State studied it hard and found no harm to man nor beast. So there it is, friend. 30 million years of little creatures dying at the bottom of the world, pressed into stone, ground into a bag that cost you $10. And every bug that crosses it dies the same way bugs have died since before man ever struck a fire. Over 60 years they've kept it quiet. But you know now, if this helped you, pass it to somebody still stuck on that treadmill. Knowledge like this don't vanish on its own. It gets buried. This old channel digs it back up. Subscribe if that sits right with you. Thank you kindly for sitting with me.